Hi, Christy. This is your second program. We're going to add a bit more complexity to it. Two workouts, A and B, that you'll alternate. Workout A, we're going to keep you on that forearm plank for a little longer just so that you're not on your toes. If you feel well enough to come up to your toes for part of it, that's great, but I really did want to pay attention to the toe issue that you've had in the past. Make sure that your elbows are directly under your shoulders, your belly and your bum are squeezed tight, and your back is in a nice straight line. And there's my favorite stretch after plank. We're going to work on some upper body postural stuff. Prone Y raise, come into a face down position on your mat. Make sure your toes are pointed so the tops of your feet are on the floor, keeping your thighs and your feet on the floor. I want you to lift those arms up 6 to 8 inches, pause for a second at the top, and then lower. No upper body movement here. Here's your squat to bicep curl to overhead press. So 3-point movement, sitting back in the squat, palms will be in, curling up into that hammer curl. When you get to the top, rotate so that your palms are forward and you press the weights directly up and overhead. Here it is from the side. Notice that the bum comes back and way down. My thighs are almost parallel to the floor. My knees are behind my toes and back remains flat. Let's keep working on those bent over rows. So hand is on the bench, directly underneath the shoulder. We're going to take all the bounce and momentum out of that pull. So pause for half a second at the top, slowly lower, pause at the bottom. So we come to a full stop at the bottom and the top of the movement. All reps on one side, then switch to the other. Lateral lunges, we're going to get into the inner and outer thigh here. So start with your feet together. Think about keeping your toes pointed forward as you take a giant step out to the right. Drop your bum back and down so that right knee is bent and the left leg is straight. Pull yourself back in. Do all reps on one side and switch to the other. Let's keep working on those push-ups, either from the knees or the toes, lowering as close to the floor as we can. Strong push back to the starting position. You want a straight line from the back of the shoulders to the back of the knees, and your belly and bum should be tight to protect your lower back. Workout B. This is your side plank. Again, we're on knees here for now because of the toe. If you start to feel more comfortable and want to add those extended legs, you may do that. Notice that the shoulder and the elbow are in direct alignment. I've got both of my shoulders stacked, my hips are stacked, and my hips are way up and off the mat. Standing resistance band row. This is a great exercise for the back as well as the core. So wrap your band around an anchor, a post, something that's not going to move. Step back so you already have tension on the band as you're holding the handles out in front of you. Bend the knees slightly, keep the shoulders down and back, and smoothly pull those handles in towards your armpits. And we want to pause as we squeeze shoulder blades together at the top. Stability ball, hamstring curl, and hip extension. So with that new ball, you're going to come into a face-up position. Hands and shoulders are on the floor. Feet are on the ball. Squeeze the glutes and hamstrings as you pull the ball in towards you, and then release. Dumbbell chest flies. Again, we're on the bench. You could try this one on the stability ball if you'd like. That's going to add a bit more core involvement and balance to challenge you. Make sure you keep a slight bend in your elbow and you don't open those arms down past that shoulder point. That can be a risk of hurting the rotator cuff. Here you can see it on the ball. You'll notice I'm keeping my hips tight and up and my feet about hip distance apart for stability. Reverse lunge to knee drive. So we're going to step back into a lunge, push back up through the front foot, drive that knee up and pause, holding that balance for just a fraction of a second. That's going to work some single-sided things, some core, and some balance. Do all reps on one side and switch to the other. Here's your bent over reverse fly. Like we started last week, you started seated. When you're ready to come to standing, this is the standing version. Knees are bent, hips are hinged, back is flat. Little bend in the elbow as we lift those arms up and squeeze the middle of the back together at the top of the movement.